the lack of effort and the absorption of money from NASA.
Right.
And that's a government tactic to make us not believe any conspiracy theory.
At that time,
it's dead ever. There's a circular shape of Earth, but really it's a circular window, and both sides were faking a lot of the time as well. Anyway.
Do you believe we landed on the moon though?
Right then, today's video is going to be a strange one because it'll be the first time I've responded to a video from someone I was a huge fan of. But then he had a guest on his podcast that changed things.
You were a footballer, Coventry City goalkeeper. You had to stop your career early for the arthritis, and you ended up being a BBC reporter.
Right.
And at some point, I don't
the world
know how,
went very weird.
Now, I recently rewatched the David Icke episode of True Geordie's podcast, and it made me think, where did things change for Brian? And then I came across this episode from 2018. Please subscribe.
People are often dismissive of conspiracy theories because we've been trained to associate the word conspiracy instantly with the word theory.
Now, the word conspiracy on its own implies a secret, potentially an illegal plan that has been put into action. And adding the word theory signals that we're talking about an idea or a belief that such a plan exists. But it hasn't necessarily been proven, and a perfect example of this is the Flat Earth conspiracy.
What they want to do is put those two together to make it sound like it's not true, it's just a theory, when often, when you look into conspiracies, there's often facts to back it up, and it is just a conspiracy.
What if they were called fact theories?
Yeah, no, fair play. I've never thought of it that way. What if they were called fact theories? Would everybody then have the same attitude towards them?
It's also just good for...
You'll never ever hear anyone in a BBC, Sky News, CNN, anyone say the word conspiracy without theory always following it up. Why is that?
Now, almost all conspiracies that are publicly discussed are labelled as theories, and this is because, as I said earlier, the term theory acknowledges the lack of definitive proof and allows for debate. Even conspiracies that have gained widespread acceptance, like the Watergate scandal, were initially considered theories. Now, some conspiracies eventually become accepted as fact, but only when there's enough evidence to support it as being a fact. And at that point, it may lose the theory label and be recognised as an actual conspiracy, which is very different from a conspiracy theory.
My conspiracy theory
is...
the moon landing.
Oh,
right.
You think it happened?
Definitely not.
Now, there's a couple of things I want to point out from that very short clip. The first thing is the gigantic smirk on Brian's face. Usually, if somebody really believes what they're saying, they say it with conviction, not with a grin on their face. It's a bit of a giveaway. And secondly, his use of the word definitely. It's not definite, because there is absolutely no evidence to support what you just claimed and what thousands of other people claim. But the only difference in this instance is that I used to have huge amounts of respect for Brian as a content creator.
To be honest with you, I think what we need to make this about isn't whether or not it happened, but whether or not the footage is real.
Okay, well, that's an interesting take that I've not heard so far. So you're not a full-blown moon landing denier then, you're just kind of halfway there.
There is the possibility that they landed on the moon, couldn't show us the footage because of the technical difficulties of that, and faked a lot of footage to basically give people some sort of evidence of it, and then thought we'll never tell them the truth anyway.
Do you believe we landed on the moon though?
Because the footage looks extremely fake, I don't think we landed on that.
And again, that's something we've all heard a million times before. And if you think it looks fake, then that's fine if that's your opinion. But what do you think it's meant to look like then?
Just in 1969.
Basically, we've had a lot of lunar missions under the same president, President Nixon.
There have been a total of 9 crewed missions to the moon, and all of these were part of NASA's Apollo program. Now, 6 of these missions landed on the moon: Apollo 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And Nixon was in office for 5 out of those 9 lunar missions: 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, I think it was. Because it's an interesting side note that it was President Kennedy who initiated the Apollo program. Nixon just happened to be serving as president during most of the actual lunar landing.
I call this one Moonspiracy.
Every single thing we've ever done in humanity has progressed. except one.
And I bet none of us will be able to guess what that one thing you think hasn't progressed is.
Everything we've ever done in history has progressed,
What do you mean by that?
except two.
Right.
The XO YouTube channel and space travel.
But that's just not true, Brian. And I think you probably know it's not true. That's a common claim made by conspiracy theorists, but it's demonstrably false. The claim that space travel hasn't progressed since the moon landings is simply untrue. Now, since 1969, we've seen significant advancements in spacecraft and rocket technology, with reusable vehicles and more powerful engines. Robotic missions have explored our solar system extensively, while space telescopes like Hubble and James Webb have revolutionized our own understanding of the universe. Now, the International Space Station has enabled long-duration spaceflight and international collaboration. We've landed rovers on Mars, discovered thousands of exoplanets, and while the Apollo missions were a remarkable achievement, they were just the beginning of humanity's journey into space, and technological progress continues to push the boundaries of space exploration.
Obviously, in the 60s, 70s, under the presidency of Nixon, who was the most crooked president in the history of America.
Yeah, that's fair, because that's an established fact and there is lots of evidence to support it. But how does that back up anything you were claiming about the moon landings being faked? For example, you were making some really stupid claims, but I don't think you're a stupid person. The success you found on YouTube shows us that. And I'm definitely not saying it because you're 6'3", 20 stone and live in the UK and could probably kill me, but I am quite a fast runner.
We went to the moon. I can't remember how many times it was. It doesn't fucking matter. The point is after that, we went to the moon and it was... That's it. That's enough, lads. Jobs are good. And so what I'm suggesting here is, if you look at transportation, technology, TVs, phones, cars, everything.
TV is the same as getting to the moon.
All technology has improved and developed, and everything has gotten better, bigger and better, except space travel. That's the one thing that we've went to the moon.
The one thing.
It literally is the one thing.
Is it though? So what about the International Space Station, the James Webb Space Telescope, the Hubble Space Telescope? The space shuttle missions, they weren't advancements in our ability to explore space?
I think it's a very fair statement to say in the last 50 years, technology has progressed dramatically.
Yeah, and I would agree that that's a very fair thing to say, and it's factually accurate. Technology has progressed enormously over the last 40 or 50 years. But so has space travel, and a lot of the technologies that I am certain you're about to reference are only with us today because of our ability to explore space.
Even in 10 years, remember Packard Bell PCs that we had compared to now, man?
Yeah, but that's because space exploration has been a major catalyst for advancements in computer technology. The need for lightweight and compact computers for spacecraft led to the development of integrated circuits and microprocessors, which are the foundation of modern computers and smartphones. Complex space missions require sophisticated software to control the spacecraft, analyze data and ensure mission success. Communicating with that spacecraft over vast distances required advancements in wireless communication technologies, and this led to the innovation in antennas, signal processing and data compression, which have benefited mobile phones, Wi-Fi and other wireless technologies.
I mean, even in 10 years, so in 50 years, things have progressed massively.
Sorry, Packard.
Apart from space travel.
Right. Going on that premise, what do we know?
So logically, if we went to the moon, I think it's a fair statement to say that within that 50 years, we would have continued progressing on that as the way we have everything else.
And we have, and I'm going to tag you in this video so that you can see that we have, or at least that's what I hope will happen.
We would have gone to the moon, we went with it, pushed it to Mars, because we have then...
That's a different kettle of fish though, isn't it?
But it's a different planet. But the point is once you've done one, the chances are you've understood how to get out of the Earth's atmosphere, you've built all the equipment, there's no reason why we couldn't man a spacecraft to go even further and further and further.
Size, pal, which you should know all about, shouldn't you, big boy? No, not like that. Grow up. Space is vast, and even our closest neighbouring star system, Alpha Centauri, is 4.37 light years away, which means it would take light, the fastest thing in the universe, over 4 years to get there. And with our current technology, even though you seem to think that we haven't advanced at all in it, a human journey to Alpha Centauri would take tens of thousands of years.
The lack of effort and the absorption of money from NASA.
Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm really surprised to hear you saying that, Brian, because NASA's budget, let's imagine that the entire US budget for the year was $1. NASA's budget out of that $1 is half of 1 penny.
Would suggest that they should have been trying to go further, because NASA take a fuck ton of money and there is not a lot of evidence to say what they're spending it on a lot of the time.
And again, that's simply not true, because NASA get audited on multiple occasions every financial year.
And they're spending it on trying to prove the Earth isn't flat.
You've got to love Will Ennie. Now, I know he was saying that to try and be funny, and it was funny, but that's exactly the sorts of things that conspiracy theorists feed off.
All of the...
Just to be clear, NASA's only mission is not just to go to the moon, though. It's also to launch satellites and to
every other manned mission outside of the Nixon presidency has been within the Earth's atmosphere. We've never left the Earth's atmosphere and past the Van Allen radiation belt since Nixon's presidency in the last 50 years.
But we do go through the Van Allen belt to reach the International Space Station. Now, the ISS orbits at an altitude of about 400 kilometres or 250 miles, which places it within the inner Van Allen belt, which extends from about 1,000 to 6,000 kilometres above Earth.
Nixon, the most crooked president.
Do you mean humans haven't? Like, you haven't sent a human?
A human being hasn't passed outside the Earth's atmosphere since then.
Now, this is where the definition of Earth's atmosphere can get a little bit tricky, because technically, astronauts on the space shuttle and those travelling to and from the International Space Station have been outside the commonly defined boundary of Earth's atmosphere, which is the Kármán line, which is at 100 kilometres or 62 miles above sea level. But recent research suggests that the Earth's atmosphere, specifically a layer called the geocorona, extends much further than previously thought, encompassing the moon's orbit at 384,400 kilometres or 238,855 miles.
There's a reason for that.
Do you think Russia didn't?
I don't think anyone has.
You don't think Russia did
I
either?
think anyone's got the technology to go through the Van Allen radiation belt, because that is
at that time
it's
now?
dead ever. I don't think we're there now.
Not
I think
now.
If we were there now, we'd be going past it, because
Now, I don't know if you realise this, Brian, and I really don't think you did it deliberately, but you do realise that you just called every single person who has ever been fortunate enough to travel into space, and I'm talking about in particular the people who are aboard the ISS today. But what you just did was call them all liars. There's people up there now looking down on us.
it's a really dangerous radiation belt to pass through. Like, we would pretty much, a lot of scientists say we'd be vaporized basically as soon as you go through that.
Yeah, but do they though? Which scientist, Brian? And be specific, because I've just wasted 30 minutes trying to find some sort of citation from a scientist claiming that we would be vaporized if we tried to travel through the Van Allen radiation belt. And guess what? I couldn't find anything at all.
Here's one thing that I always find problematic about conspiracy theories is we sort of pick and choose the science sometimes. So maybe I understand where you're coming from with not being able to go out to space. Why do you believe about not being able to go through the atmosphere, those scientists, but you don't question the scientists that say we couldn't go through the Van Allen?
Damn, what a brilliant question, and I am really gutted I didn't think of it. You can't pick and choose. Either you trust science or you don't.
So the reason I believe that
Yeah.
is after looking at the facts and thinking to myself, well, that does sound very unrealistic. For example,
Right.
back in the day around this time, people had the old cameras where you'd had film developed.
The more you say, the more I can tell why you're saying the things you're saying, and I'll get to that later in the video. The Apollo astronauts used specially modified Hasselblad 500EL cameras with Zeiss lenses and 70mm film during the lunar landings. It was a thin, custom-made film which allowed for more frames per magazine. I think it was roughly around 200, and was designed to withstand the extreme temperatures and the radiation of space. What did you think? They just took a Polaroid instant with them?
So when you take those old cameras through an X-ray at an airport, your film would actually it would be done. It would be fucked.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get the pictures developed. If you look at the footage of that guy, that is so fucking fake. It is so fucking
That one
fake.
is too.
Okay, and if that's what you think, that's what you think. But you can't just say, oh, that looks fake to me, without showing us what you think it should have looked like. Because if you can't show us what you think it should have looked like, then you can't claim that the footage we do have is fake.
This is a tried and tested way of relieving weight from performers. You can see the ping at the top of the frame.
Brian, please do not say it. I can see exactly where this is going, and I implore you, but don't say it.
He dabs on the Russians.
It would be difficult, nigh on impossible in that time, to create a big enough light source that would create a light condition like that back in the day, back in the 60s. And they say it would even be quite difficult now to do that.
You want to listen to Lawrence, Brian, because what he's saying is 100% spot on, but what he hasn't specified is what that light source is. It's the sun.
So what a great big light to film them with.
Yeah, they basically looked at the footage, and then they looked at the way that you would have to film it back then, and they basically worked out how you would have to film it, and said, well, actually it would be impossible to film that without that sort of light source.
Let me give you a hand, he says.
Now, that doesn't look right to me. I don't know about you.
Oh my word, I have never been so disappointed in my life. Brian, I used to love everything you do, and you just said that. What should it look like then? You keep saying it looks fake to me, but you're not explaining what you think it should have looked like.
This is the moon landing flag.
Brian, have you been reading An Idiot's Guide to Moon Landing Denial?
Obviously,
So it's the flag, yeah.
space is a vacuum, therefore there's no wind.
You're quite right, Brian. Space is a vacuum. There's no wind up there at all. So NASA used the specially designed telescopic pole with a horizontal bar to keep the flag unfurled. It was also wrinkled from being packaged on the journey to the moon, which added to the illusion of movement. And when the astronauts planted it, they twisted the pole, and the motion of twisting the pole, combined with the flag's inertia and the lack of air resistance, made it sway. It's like shaking out a rug. The ripples are similar to what we saw happening to the flag the astronauts planted on the moon.
What they have ingeniously done is placed the camera at the back of the spacecraft and centered the lens on a circular window in the foreground, outside of which it is completely filled with the Earth in low orbit.
Yeah, so suck it, flat earthers.
What we're seeing now is a circular shape of Earth, but really it's a circular window with Earth very close, but being made to look like it's a very small Earth, and the blacked out sides that we're seeing is them with the lights off.
Yeah.
Now, we need them to prove that.
Right.
Oh, please don't be a flat earther as well.
I guess it does it really affect us that much now if we went to the moon anymore or not? What do you think it would? What do you think it would change?
So what it changes is
Yeah.
the fact that NASA get billions, if not trillions, of pounds, of dollars even.
Yeah.
Of taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
Under the pretense that they're basically
going space.
furthering humanity, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Whereas, where's that money really going, and what is it going on?
But NASA publishes detailed budget breakdowns, and independent organisations analyse how that money is allocated. And here's a quick breakdown. Science. Now this gets the largest chunk, and quite rightly so. Funding space telescopes like James Webb, planetary science missions like Mars rovers, Earth science research and astrophysics studies, as well as space operations. Their budget supports the International Space Station, commercial crew programs, and space transportation systems. Exploration focuses on human exploration beyond Earth orbit, including the Artemis program, which is going to take us back to the moon. Or will that be faked as well, Brian? Well, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. I know it was a little bit different to the way I usually present my videos, but as I said, I was a huge fan of True Geordie. I literally modelled my own YouTube career on his. Everything he uploaded, I used to watch, and then he had David Icke on as a guest, and it seems to have sort of pushed Brian in the wrong direction. Now, don't get me wrong, it's perfectly fine to be skeptical about things, but when it comes to something like the moon landing, which is backed up by so much evidence, saying that it was faked is, I'm sorry, Brian, but it's completely ridiculous. And the more you say things like this, the more ridiculous people are going to think you are. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Love you. Bye.
I don't think so. No, 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 no. I don't think so. No, 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 no. It's never, ever, 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 ever gonna happen.
Yes, science!